Young Bethany stays up late and goes to her bedroom window to count the stars.
13, 14.
However, she is terrified to see something crawling about in the fields behind her house. She takes a moment to confirm what she has seen, and as the movement becomes more rapid and she makes out a human figure, she becomes scared and screams for help, inadvertently from the monster itself.
Somebody's outside, right through the field!
The movie begins in Pensacola, Florida in 2004, where multiple reports of missing girls have worried the community. One morning, a salesman drives through the highway, worryingly listening to a news report of yet another missing teenager, named Tracy Lee. As the man stops by the side of the road to take a break, he is horrified to discover the body of a young woman and immediately reports it to the police. A few hours later, Florida Department of Law Enforcement Agent Byron Crawford is notified, arrives at the crime scene, learns that the victim is 26-year-old Sarah Kellogg, and is perplexed to recognize that the crime scene matches that of the multiple open cases discovered over the past few years. Elsewhere, disoriented Tracy barely manages to walk out of a motel room. One of the men becomes aggressive and tries to force her into spending the night with him, but she's rescued by another truck driver named Peter, who, after making sure she's all right, gets her in his truck and drives away. On the other side of Florida, FBI agent Carl Helter stakes out a motel in a sting operation to bring down a sex trafficking ring, while his partner, Rebecca Lombardo, disguises herself as a prostitute and waits for their target in one of the motel rooms. Unfortunately, Calvin, a man who the agents soon realize is not their target, shows up, bragging that he chased Rebecca's date away, and before Rebecca could leave, starts assaulting her. Rebecca beats Calvin unconscious to the dismay of Carl, and the agents flee the area. Meanwhile, Tracy continues her journey with Peter, who tells her about his young daughter, Bethany, and accepts his invitation to stay with his family for the night so that she can stay out of harm's way, and set out to her destination first thing the next morning. Back in the Florida Police Department, despite putting forth a passionate argument, Agent Byron fails to convince his superiors to pursue Sarah's case and work out the relationship with the string of unsolved murder cases, and is assigned to a different case. In Pensacola, Agent Byron goes to see Sarah Kellogg's mother, politely informs her of her daughter's demise, and takes time to comfort her. Before leaving, the agent promises Mrs. Kellogg that he will personally inform her of any new developments in her daughter's case. Peter arrives home in the evening to his loving wife and young daughter, Bethany, and shares a family dinner. Right after which he announces that he has picked up an extra night shift and prepares to leave for the night, despite his wife's complaints over his recent demanding work schedule. Peter reassures his wife that he's doing all the extra shifts for the family, and then discreetly makes his way to a local motel. There, he is met by a girl who flirts with him and invites him in. Inside, the two start dancing together.
Dirty, disgusting.
The next morning, as Bethany plays in the grass field behind her house, she hears whispers from an underground tunnel and runs back frightened. Later that day, the police are alerted to the murder and cordon off the motel. The FBI agents go there to check out what's going on and run into Agent Byron, who is happy to share the incidents of similar crime in the area and gives them his contact information so that they can reach out for further discussion. Elsewhere, Peter stays back in his house, hoping to stay low. He opens a secret cabinet full of items from the many girls he murdered and takes time to spend time with them. He then spends the afternoon with Bethany, nourishing her with love and spending some quality time with her.
Wash your arms and legs off with a sponge.
Later that night, Agent Byron is excited to get a call from Agent Rebecca and meets her at a bar to discuss the case.
FBI gave it to a behavioral specialist to confirm what we knew
Why?
After discussing the case in detail, the agents conclude that the serial killer had been looking for Agent Rebecca when he went to the motel the night he killed the prostitute, as she had been baiting him and setting traps online. She learns from Agent Byron that Tracy was reported missing by her sister, Heather, and goes to see her to find more information. Agent Rebecca meets with Heather at a motel run by Calvin and learns that Calvin had drugged a group of girls the night Tracy disappeared. In the underground cell, Peter keeps brutally torturing Tracy. Agent Rebecca realizes that Calvin probably saw and inadvertently chased the serial killer the night he came to see her at the motel. She goes to Calvin's room and threatens him with a gun to tell her everything he saw of the man he chased away, and learns that the suspect is a middle-aged white man with a lightning bolt tattoo on his forearm. Before leaving Calvin's room, Agent Rebecca warns and gives the petty officer 3 days to leave the state. After a couple of days, Agent Rebecca meets up with Agent Carl and learns that he's being reassigned to a different case and leaving the state. She explains why it's important for her to stay back and conclude the case by sharing the assault she endured as a freshman in high school. Agent Carl is still worried for her safety and tries to convince her to join him, to no avail. The two get into a fight about the matter before going their separate ways. Agent Rebecca continues to chat with Peter online in hopes of luring him out of getting his DNA to test against the one found on the victims. Peter chooses one of the most popular and crowded clubs in the state for the meetup, and Agent Rebecca equips herself with hidden communication devices and is escorted to the bar by Agent Byron. They get to the bar and are overwhelmed by the number of people and the blasting music. The agents go their separate ways, not to blow their covers, and look out for the suspect, who has told Agent Rebecca that he will be wearing a plaid shirt. Agent Rebecca fights off a couple of random men hitting on her, and finds a place at the bar, while Agent Byron scopes out everyone and sees a suspicious-looking man in a plaid shirt. He informs Agent Rebecca of the discovery, follows the man out of the club, and starts chasing him on the street. Meanwhile, Peter, a middle-aged white man dressed in a plaid shirt, comes out of nowhere, takes a seat next to Agent Rebecca, and starts up a conversation. Agent Rebecca notices the lightning tattoo on the man's forearm and is terrified to realize that it's the suspect. As she cautiously tries to carry out the conversation, Agent Byron catches up with the man he's chasing outside and is terrified to realize that he's just a petty criminal. He reports this finding to Agent Rebecca through the static radio and runs back to the club.
Just hang on to my arm.
However, when he gets inside, there's no sign of his partner. Frightened for Agent Rebecca's safety, Agent Byron goes around asking people if they've seen her. He then runs to his car and tries calling her phone, but finds no response. Agent Byron then rushes to his home to change his clothes and pick up a few things he will need for the road. There, he takes a moment to process what happened and how much danger Agent Rebecca is in. Mrs. Crawford worriedly asks her husband to stay back with her and their child, but the agent promises to return safe and sets out on his own investigation. He immediately heads to the local truck stop and uses his friendship with the owner of the gas station to access private security cam videos, in which he sees Tracy following a man into a truck and figures out the name of the freight company the truck belongs to. Meanwhile, Agent Rebecca finds herself in a dark, shabby room with a collar around her neck and both her hands and feet tied together. In town, Agent Byron drives out to the freight company and asks the receptionist for confidential company information on the identity of drivers passing through Pensacola on the night of the abduction. In fear of getting in trouble with her boss, the receptionist is resistant at first, but after a passionate speech about all the helpless women from the agent, she agrees to give him access. Agent Byron meticulously goes through the long list of drivers, but comes up short of any useful information. Just as he is about to give up on it, he comes up with an idea, searches for drivers who have taken an extra shift, and finds Peter Hillborough's name. Meanwhile, Peter goes to the torture cell to Agent Rebecca and taunts her by telling her stories of his old victims. Just as he leaves back to his house through his shed, Bethany comes, cheerfully asking him to play. Peter tells his daughter that it's getting dark and takes her to bed. In the torture cell, Agent Rebecca hears strained breathing and figures out that Tracy is locked in the next room. She reaches out to the scared girl, telling her how much her sister Heather misses her. She then informs her that her captor plans to kill her that night and encourages her to fight for her life and escape. Peter comes to the underground torture cell and is terrified to find Tracy gone. He runs outside to the fields and slowly looks around for his captive, while Tracy quietly crawls through the tall grasses and makes her way to the neighbor's house. The elderly neighbor, Mrs. Cubber, is shocked to see Tracy in such a traumatic state and helps her in. Having learned of Peter's address from the freight company, Agent Byron goes to his house and meets his wife, who tells him that Peter just left to check on Mrs. Cubber. Meanwhile, Peter goes to Mrs. Cubber's house and interrupts her just as she starts calling the police. He invites himself in and takes a look around the residence, but misses the terrified Tracy, desperately hiding behind the couch. He then heads to the torture chamber and starts assaulting Agent Rebecca, interrogating her about Tracy's whereabouts, while Agent Byron chit-chats with Mrs. Hillborough and Bethany. Bethany then innocently mentions that her father ran after a mysterious person in the grass field, and Agent Byron follows the directions in search of the monster. Peter beats Agent Rebecca, hangs her, and attempts to inject her with a sedative, but she manages to use all of her might to attack him and sticks him with the sedative needle, causing him to pass out. Moments later, Agent Rebecca is rescued and taken to the hospital, where she is visited by Agent Carl and Agent Byron, while everything surrounding the disappearance of the girls unravels.
And there's nowhere left to stay.
The movie ends as Agent Byron drives to Mrs. Kellogg's house to give her Sarah's cross necklace, and the two hold on to each other, sobbing. The end. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.